Hello everyone! Today, in the spirit of January denial, I'm going to be sculpting a little Santa figure. I start with a simple armature of thick aluminum wire and bulk out the shape with aluminum foil. Ordinarily I'd use a bit more foil as to not waste clay, but it was short on supply at the moment. Now, for starters, I cover the armature up to about the hip area with clay as to create a base off of which I can then start build the legs from. I try to finish the legs more or less entirely before moving on to the upper body, since they will be hard to work on after the belly comes in. Speaking of which, it's tummy time. I make the tummy by taking a big blob of clay and applying it to the front of the body. I blend it in and start stretching it towards the back as to have a base to start working on that area later. The head begins as a big drop shape. I start hollowing out the eye sockets with a round pearl that I mounted to some steel wire. It's a pretty good way to create a ball tool, whatever you call it. I put in a loose brow ridge and a temporary nose just to map the face a little before moving on to building the jaw and further fiddling with the eyes. Time for a chin. Nice and sharp. The expression I'm looking for in the mouth is akin to that of an elderly gentleman urging you to swiftly extract your ass from his property. This is achieved by applying a tapered slit of clay that I push up towards the lip area to really emphasize the tenseness of the chin. Here it seems I unfortunately forgot to turn the camera on, but in short, I put 2 balls of clay in each eye socket and squish out 2 small pieces of clay on the top and bottom of each eye to create the eyelids. I sculpt a couple of little teeth to poke out from the lower jaw. For this I use white Cernit clay, which has a lovely semi-transparent finish. I usually try to use Cernit clay for teeth and such because it tends to be more flexible than Sculpey after baking, which makes it splendid if you ever want to make small and thin appendages for your sculpture. After emphasizing the brow ridge a bit more, I start fitting the head to the body, with a nice little neck fold and shaving out a body-shaped space in the head. For the arms, I took the measured clay tubes from before and pulled clay towards the middle of the tubes to create the hooks of the underarms, after which I flattened the bottom of each end and cut out fingers from the slates to create the hands. Alright, the head is nearing completion. Now I simply press in the teeth, sculpt a little nice stubby nose, and make some more or less ear-like indentations in the ears. I guess that's the nice thing about ears being as complicated as they are. Most people don't fully know how they look like, so you get away with a few inaccuracies. Now just some finishing texture work on the chin and nose, and Santa is ready for the oven. Toasty. For the main body I use Super Sculpey Original, as it too has a very nice semi-transparent finish that's excellent for mimicking the look of flesh. To fully realize this potential, I'm going to paint the skin by layering various washes. This allows me to produce subtle skin tone variations while maintaining the slightly see-through surface characteristic of skin. Starting with some red in the face. For now I'm putting some in most areas just to bring out all the little creases and details. After each coat I wipe away the excess paint with some paper or simply my finger. The paper tends to remove most paint in the area, only leaving it in the deeper recesses, while the finger, being less absorbent, only removes some. So switching between the two gives me finer control over the hues, especially on the more plain surfaces. After this, I move on to cover the body in a mix of the same red wash and Agrax Earthshade. I move back to the face to emphasize the nose and the top of the head with further coats of the same red wash as before. After once again adding some red to the face, I start covering select areas of the entire body in a wash of Temple Guard Blue. I want this color to be rather subtle, but just a touch of it does wonders, since larger veins tend to assume a similar blue-green hue under lighter skin. Finally, for the washes, I go over most of the model's non-creasing areas with a wash of Yanden Dark Sun. For the eyes, I use System 3 Original Acrylic Titanium White. I find this particular paint to remain sticky rather long after use, which means it easily gathers dust and other particles. But in this instance, the issue at hand will be dealt with a bit later. Now for the details. I want the skin to have small reddish veins in miscellaneous spots across the body. So I go in with a watered down purplish red and a tiny brush, painting this little line that I then stroke away the edges of with my finger. This hopefully creates the illusion of a blood vessel approaching the outer layers of the skin, only to recede back again. Finally, for the piece de résistance, I go in with the same technique but somewhat larger brush strokes around the top of the head. Looking good thus far? Although, I'm not sure Santa Claus is the first name that comes to mind. I'm thinking he looks more like a John Thomas. So let's see if we can do something about that. To make the hair, I use wool that I've pulled apart and put together again a couple of times to align the fibers. Cutting through a tuft of this gives me a flat surface of fiber ends that I can then make stick to the desired areas with some wood glue. Mod Podge or similar probably works as well if anyone at home prefers. When the glue is dry, I pull out the fibers that didn't stick. A thin comb is a great tool for this, whereafter I trim the area to desired style. The same process is repeated around the hairline and right at the tip of the head. Before the glue dried, I decided to clear up the forehead a bit to give the eyebrows more room to breathe. Now I use a soft fan brush to remove any little hairs that have fallen onto the model and coat the eyes in a glossy varnish. Finally, I consider covering the base in cotton to create a little snow landscape, but I ultimately decide to paint it green instead, to contrast and bring out the red hues of our new little friend. And with that, we are done.